Hey there guys, today we have a channel member request video. This is the F-8E, a rather unique aircraft which unfortunately had its BR raised a few months ago and is going to make for quite the struggle bus if not played rather carefully. But first, speaking of my channel members, you may notice my audio quality sounds a little bit better, and that's because I saw a nice mic on sale and decided to put some of your channel donations to use to improve the audio quality a bit. I know some of you guys were big fans of the terrible audio quality this channel is kinda known for, but hopefully you can put up with this. I'm not a fan of listening to my own voice in the best of times, but with that old mic it was really starting to grate on me just a little bit. Anyways, on to the F-8E. This is a bit of a tricky aircraft for a couple of reasons. To begin with, it is extremely strong in a 1v1 or even a 2v1 gunfight, but as we all know, War Thunder ARB tends to devolve into giant furballs most of the time, so it's rather difficult to actually fully make use of this thing's strengths. I'll get to exactly why this thing is such a strong dogfighter in just a minute, but the short version is that this is one of those aircraft where you have to pay very close attention to your speed in order to use it optimally. On top of this, you're equipped with missiles which can be situationally very strong, but they aren't really the kind that you can just spam at people and expect to get kills. These missiles are the AIM-9C and the AIM-9D. Both of these missiles are naval Sidewinder variants, meaning they're going to have considerably greater range than the regular versions you may be used to using, such as the E, the J, or the P, which are all quite common. Both of these variants pull 18 Gs, which is decent overall. However, the D version has a cage seeker head, much like the AIM-9B, which means you can only fire it directly forward and cannot lead it once you gain a lock on someone. This is going to seriously restrict its effectiveness in terms of how often you're actually able to get a solid shot off on somebody. The C, meanwhile, is quite unique, being a radar-guided variant of the Sidewinder, which offers you the ability to engage targets in all aspects, but with some caveats. The F-8's radar set is extremely rudimentary and offers no ground or chaff filtering abilities whatsoever. So basically, this missile is as hungry for chaff as R-60s are for flares, so unless somebody is either not paying attention or didn't bring any chaff, just one pop will be enough to break your lock. Also, its proximity fuse only has a 5-meter trigger radius, which means it needs to be very close to someone in order to actually detonate, compared to many other Fox 1 BVR missiles. It's also a good bit heavier than the D, which will mean less range overall. For the D, 2 kilometers or less is usually a good distance for rear aspect launches, or slightly more than that if they're either slow or you're up high. For the C, I would recommend not firing until they're within 4 kilometers off your nose, maybe 5 if they're coming straight at you at high speed. I personally prefer using 2 of each of these missiles. I know some people prefer to take 4 Ds because of how ass the radar is, but at the very least, the AIM-9Cs are good for forcing people to get the hell out of your way. Next, let's talk about the airframe and how to actually dogfight competitively. Despite being not even anywhere close to each other in terms of design, I would say the F-8E reminds me most of the F-5 in terms of how it feels to fly compared to any other aircraft. This is because, like the F-5, it has great high-speed energy retention and maneuverability, but if you get it too slow, it kinda turns into a brick, and at that point, even aircraft like Phantoms or MiG-21s will have no trouble at all sticking onto your ass and pulling a lead. For this reason, I try to stay above 400 miles per hour, or about 640 kilometers per hour if at all possible, as this will allow you to maintain your energy and maneuverability while hopefully bleeding any pursuing aircraft out of their remaining energy, while also leaving you enough speed in reserve to pull your nose onto them if they stall out. This is what we call energy trapping, and if you want to hear more about it, I'll be discussing it in more detail later in the video when we go over dogfighting. One other quick tip though, I highly recommend you use ground target belts for your cannons. 20mm HE rounds just do not have the punch necessary to reliably bring down these very large and sturdy jets you find around this BR. AP rounds, on the other hand, will insta-kill pilots and will cripple an engine with a single hit. When running ground target belts, I found that basically any clean center mass hit on an enemy aircraft would be enough to cripple them at least, whereas with air target belts, I found there to be an extremely noticeable drop in terms of damage reliability. Now let's talk about overall strategy. Climbing high at the beginning of the match is not really going to be your best option, since your AIM-9Cs are going to be significantly outranged by Sparrows and R-24s, and because you have no pulse Doppler or other look-down capabilities with your radar either. There remains a pretty easy counter to this problem though, which is just to simply look up instead. The strategy I found worked best most consistently was to circle the bases in a clockwise direction while hugging the treetops. This will stop you from getting beamed early game by radar missiles, and will also help reduce the chance you get swarmed by a pack of enemies early on. By staying this low, this will also give you the chance to use your 9Cs to bonk unsuspecting base bombers who fail to fly low enough, as well as attack enemy stragglers and subsonic aircraft you encounter towards the back of the enemy formation, or pop up and attack people diving on your team. One important thing to stay conscious of, though, is that you should absolutely not turn around to pursue people who have flown past you. If you do, you are likely going to encounter all the enemies who are themselves flying clockwise around the bases and get swarmed and killed. Like I mentioned earlier, the F-8E does not deal well with big groups of enemies, and if you do get ganged up on, I can assure you that you will be dead very, very quickly. Instead, just keep flying in circles around the bases and don't commit to any dogfights until the enemy's numbers have been sufficiently thinned. I know that might seem like a bit of a cowardly way to play, but you're not doing your teammates any favors by hopping into a furball and getting yourself killed right off the bat. The way you can best help out your team is going to be by picking off enemies opportunistically away from the main fight. Once you find yourself back by the enemy bases, you'll have reached the stage of the match where either both teams will have thinned each other's numbers out, or your entire team will have fucked off and died. Assuming it isn't the latter, it's at this point where you want to start more aggressively hunting what remains of the enemy team, especially those who are still engaging your teammates. It's at this point I want to finally talk about how to fully exploit the strengths of this airframe once you've actually found yourself in a position where you can engage the enemy under favorable conditions. As you can see me doing to these subsonics, by keeping my speed above that 400 mph threshold and staying above them, I can maintain my energy and maneuverability, while meanwhile they can't even keep their noses up. Obviously, this is kind of an unfair fight, even considering I'm outnumbered 2-1, so let's take a look at a bit of a better example of this. Remember that 7-kill match from the start of the video? Well, spoiler alert, it was actually an 8-kill. Today's unfortunate victim will be a MiG-21 MF, whose mistake is something I harp on a lot, which is that it's not always the best idea to just pull your nose in on people as hard as you can. Starting off, I'm going to pull myself straight into the vertical, and as you can see, I'm not going to pull in as hard as I can. Rather, I'm going to be disciplined, and I'm going to manage to keep myself just at that energy sweet spot I mentioned. The MiG, meanwhile, as you're going to see once I come back down on top of him, is going to be nearly out of energy already, and the only reason I don't nail him right here is because of my skill issue kicking in and I accidentally underlead him by a bit. This is going to leave me with extremely little ammo left, so I'm going to be quite cautious, but I'm not going to worry too much since, as you can see, he is totally bricked out right now, whereas at my energy state, I'm able to very easily stay glued to his 6. So I'm just going to follow him back down, and as he pulls up so as not to hit the ground, that's when he's at his absolute most vulnerable. So I'm going to miss again, of course, because I'm bad, and then finally get him with my last remaining handful of shots. Anyways, guys, I hope you found this information helpful. Just a reminder, if you have a vehicle that you want to see reviewed, or you'd like to have a say in the order of future content, please consider my partnership program for that and some other perks, as it really helps out the channel. And for more aircraft guides such as this one, check out the playlist linked in the description. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.